Life is change, and you can be prepared. This is Sudden Money Insights, hosted by Susan K. Bradley. Financial advisors work with clients in transition every day. But what can you offer that other advisors can't? Become a certified financial transitionist through the Financial Transitionist Institute. We go beyond traditional CFP training to provide you with the tools you need to support your clients on the human side of life's big transitions. Learn more by visiting financialtransitionist.com.
Welcome to another edition of Sudden Money Insights. Today, it is my honor to introduce to you Laura Berry. She's with an independent registered investment advisory firm called Wealthspire. I have many questions for Laura, some that you are going to really love the answers to, because she's a very thoughtful person who has been a financial planner for a very long time. Not that she's that old, but that she is that wise. So first of all, tell me about the name Wealthspire. Where does that come from?
Yeah, thanks. Wealthspire Advisors was a carefully wrought name. It was forged in a way. It was a culmination of some smaller, more regional firms. And we're really looking for a name that would indicate our care and desire to help cultivate our clients' inspirations and to help guard their inspirations and to be inspiring for them. So that Wealthspire, sometimes people picture the big spire at the top of the building, and that's okay too if we're reaching high. We have high, lofty goals for ourselves, but mostly it's really about the inspirational aspect of planning and helping clients see their way through that.
I don't know that everyone, in fact, I would almost say most people don't expect that from a financial planner. These days, people still think about asset management, cash flow, retirement, and that. How did it come to be that there is it regional or national Wealthspire at this point?
Yes.
Oh, it's both, okay.
Yes, we grew, it's a tree with many roots, and many of those started or are regional, had been active in their particular region for many years before they came to be part of Wealthspire. But we are on our way to becoming a national firm. Go national is in fact one of our strategic priorities. But at the beginning, you mentioned about, maybe not as common. I'll say that Wealthspire has a very well-defined set of cultural beliefs. And when we're in that M&A field, we're, first of all, lead with planning, very planning focused. I want to say 80% of our advisors are CFPs and better. That's the starting point, as it is with you. But very, very planning focused and lead off with that. So that's really important. And when we are joining with other regional firms, having that strong cultural fit is really key. And we were just recently at an internal event in Fort Lauderdale, and one of the firms that recently joined was successor of Norm Boone's practice, Private Ocean. One of the lead advisors there said, "I love this." She said, "It feels just like a bigger Private Ocean," and that just made me feel good. But we really are looking for those good fits. Culture is really key.
Well, that's important, and I think there is a shift in financial planning. You started a couple of decades ago in your work, and it was a little bit of a different world at that point. And okay, so you're a CFP and you're trained in that wonderful discipline, but you bring more to your work than the CFP model. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's not either or and.
No, it's crucial. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what led you into being a certified financial transitionist? You're already established in the financial planning world. You're with a regional on the way to national firm that has that wonderful cultural value of helping people inspire around their wealth. But what was missing, if anything, and why did you take the time to go through this training?
Yeah, I really found the training was a bit of a godsend for me, and was, the more we mature, the more we know what we don't know, and that became evident. Certainly, it was a big accomplishment to go through the CFP training, and I met a lot of wonderful practitioners through that. I had a great chapter very early in my career where I took a step out of being a advisor associate, I'll say, an early, and stepped into wholesaling for a local mutual fund company, and was able to travel all over the country to all these national conferences and meet really inspirational leaders in our burgeoning profession. You were one of those.
Oh,
So, yeah. With your Sun Money book. That was many, many years ago. But that was very eye-opening for me. And then when I came back, and I only took 18 months out on that side path, but when I came back to being an advisor, then I quickly saw ways where I felt inadequate. There were things that clients were going through that were really significant, and it almost felt like watching a car wreck in slow motion, like where you could see some things unfolding and not really knowing how to prevent anything, or to add real value that would help. Part of it, I think, I felt I was young. I wasn't as experienced. I was female. A lot of, particularly in the sale of business situations that I encountered early in my career, were older men, and I think that maybe was a part of the dynamic at play for me. But I really felt lacking in the tools and the expertise that I could bring to help craft some different outcomes. And that really stuck with me for a while. On one hand, it's great to get a new client who's just sold their business. If you're working with assets under management, as I have throughout my career, that's, that feels like a big win. And yet, you really want to earn out every bit of that fee. And that seeing some of those dynamics play out left me feeling short.
I think it takes a lot to know that, and to say that out loud and to address it. There's some expectation that once you get your CFP and you get established and you earn the right to be in business as a CFP, you have to be the expert. You have to know. And we weren't really taught to be curious. You just have to be that way. You have to feel the disappointment when you see that train wreck and you just you were witnessing, you weren't part of it. Or if you're trained, somebody said, I was trained, I could see it, a client in trouble was like a house on fire, and I knew how to put the fire out, but I didn't know how to rebuild the building.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the disappointment. So many ways to say that. So how does the work with transitions now show up with your client work? Is everyone you work with in a transition, or does it happen occasionally?
It is, that's a great question, because of course life is just one transition after another, and we really are in layers of transitions. Not always. Some people go through major transitions like selling a business or getting a contract, or that are a little more siloed, even though it affects their whole lives. But many times there are layers of transitions where we've got aging and grief with the loss of a partner, or sale of a business with a divorce, or other things that are really commingling. And so in many ways, if we're all slated for some major transitions one way or the other. You don't get through this life without them. But not every client I take on is going through a transition at that time. Many of the clients I'm working with now are in transition work, are clients that I've had for years. But now there has been a big fork in the road, and an ending that is leading to their new beginnings. So, and not always welcome endings, but
Welcome is right.
yeah.
What do you think is or are some of the few things that people, us humans, I'm not talking about others, I mean, we all go through this experience of life-changing events. What are some of the things that catch people by surprise?
I think, you can say the word overwhelm, but it's really such a heavy, deep, and sometimes dark, foggy, spiderwebby place. I don't necessarily mean scary, but it's almost, can be so numbing for people. And many times it is scary, but overwhelm is, I think, it's like a word like stress that we just package up, and it's this one little thing, but it's so complex and so deep and so wide that I think it catches people off guard how impactful it is and how long it lasts.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Mm-hmm.
The length is disconcerting to many. They think
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and many people around them are telling them that they should be over it, and that time to move up, get out of your funk and get back in the game. And so, yeah,
there's very little respect for dwelling. And dwelling sounds terrible. It sounds like you're stuck, or you're lazy, or you're incompetent. But that's actually when people start to find the gift of change.
Yeah, I love the word dwelling. Actually, it's much better than wallowing. I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna steal that one.
It is. How do you help people, your clients, not general people, but how do you help your clients get comfortable with how long it's taking? How do you normalize it?
I don't know if I've really nailed that. I think just talking about that, it helps if you're, I'll say it's easier, I think, to go through transitions with people I've known as clients than people that maybe I'm just getting to know. Like, here's the rug is pulled out from under you, and here's your new advisor. That's a harder. I still feel like I can add a lot of value there, or we can add a lot of value there, but I think it's easier for people to trust when they've had some knowledge of you going in. But I think the more that we can set the stage and the expectation ahead of time by just reminding this is a big process, And I love the 4 stages. Maybe you flash that up, that 4 stages graphic. I use that all the time, where the passage stage is the biggest circle on the page, and it's got arrows and squigglies and all kinds of things going through. People relate to it well when they're in there. They get it because I think when you're on the outside looking in, you could see that there's some messiness to transitions and a lot to take care of and whatnot. But, we tend to think of it more like a checklist instead of this, maze that often has, dead ends, and then you got to back it up and try it again and figure out your way through. It feels much more like slogging it out sometimes than it does, going through a checklist and getting the sense of accomplishment that has for a lot of people. So I think just trying to share that up front and repeat that as much as possible, and then celebrate the wins, going back and saying, look how much you've accomplished, look how far you've come with this. And because there's some things you just can't know until you're there. You can't make decisions until you've had a time to process and integrate and all that. It's I love that cartoon where it says, our plan, and we're at A, and it's somebody on a bicycle and they're going up to the flag at point B. But in reality, it's storm clouds and train tracks and boulders, and that's more the reality of it.
I think this human response to change that you're describing there has been like that for a long time. Probably the ancients went through that. Many of the ancient scriptures talk about, they ritualize a lot of these events. But in our modern times, when you were training to be a CFP and I was trained to be a CFP, we were taught to expedite. Mm-hmm. We were taught that we did a better job if things settled down quickly and the money was okay. And I don't blame people's families, the outside influences, for wanting to judge that way. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the term siloed. Some people are siloed. And I think I make the gender assumption that men do that and women don't. It's not necessarily true at all. This has nothing to do with gender. This is human. But when people are siloed, it's harder to process. Have you found that some people really don't want to process and they will move from point A to a predetermined point B and say stop, and they don't want to think about it anymore? Have you had that pushback?
I've had one client that's been really challenging for me in that way, and I'll tell you, it's a long-term client, and it is a client that I met at the beginning of their transition. It was the sale of a business, and that sense of invincibility was high. And I feel like the sale of a business is really like that peak of a roller coaster. It's something where there's a thrill and there is an excitement and a sense of accomplishment and reward and all this great stuff. And it's a huge pat on the back to have someone else recognize the value of something you've built and in such big numbers, But then, you quickly go down that where you're at the peak and you're kind of the golden boy or girl. And there's all this chugging to get up to that hill of preparation and positioning and pitches and all the things that go along with the sale of a business. and you're getting all kinds of attention and energy from others, and then boom, the sale is over, and now what? There's this huge void of things that have really been building up for years. And there's the void of what the underlying loss of the company and of the role that they held within that company. And so that's what seemed to be an exciting, really positive thing has a lot of negative ripples that sometimes aren't evident on the front end. At least they don't get much attention on the front end. The earlier we can be involved with that, I think, and more help clients to prepare for some of that, the better. But in this particular case, I came in as, the sale was finalizing, and it was kind of what to do with the money piece, and that's one of those ones where I felt early in my career that inadequacy of watching this unfold and feeling like I wanted to be able to do more. So
Yeah,
more tools now.
there is a ripple. It's a powerful ripple. I was somewhat of a participant at Columbia University study of entrepreneurs. And they looked at people that were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And on average, it took 4.5 years for them to report that they felt settled and sort of in the next stage of life after selling. That 4.5 years between the sale of the business and that feeling of done and accomplished and on to the next was a pretty troubling time for many. They liked the communication of each other, which was, I think, what the university was doing. They were creating some support systems there. Babson College, other places do that kind of thing. But there is an increase in divorce rate. There is an increase in substance abuse and other kind of darker things, because the world judges it as such a big win. But then if you feel the lack of the win, and obviously it's an impact on family. I remember some friends who the business was sold, and all of a sudden the family didn't get all the corporate perks, and it was a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a very big deal. So you being sensitive to that, how long do you think it takes people to settle in after the sale of a business, or say retirement?
Yeah, well, the fact of retirement is a whole nother thing. But yeah, I would say easily that 4.5 years sounds spot on. That there's a lot of slugging it out, and day after day that goes into 4.5 years. Though it can sound. At the outside, you think that's a presidential term, and sometimes that can go by pretty quickly. But man, that's a lot of opportunities for things to go astray if you don't have a good sense of identity. And that's the biggest shift is, people, I used to talk about divorce and substance abuse, just being lured by the attention of people who would like to benefit from the windfall of a sale, and how people get propped up. Somebody has the term, I'm losing the author's name right now. He talks about real friends and deal friends. And
yes.
The deal friends come out of the woodwork. And unfortunately, because our former business owners aren't getting all the attention that they were in the lead up. There's so much that goes into sale of a business, working with financing and banks and sometimes private equity and all kinds of things that can happen. But it is lawyers, accountants, everybody's got, that in itself can be overwhelming. And you can think, oh, I'll be so glad when this is over, but then it is, and then there's nothing.
Yeah.
So huge void. Yeah. And so that Russian of deal friends is
it's a reality. It's a real. So what do? How do you help in that kind of situation? I know you're not a therapist. Your work probably is therapeutic to your clients. It makes them probably feel calm and relaxed and receptive to different conversations than they would normally have with say a portfolio manager. But do you make that intentional, or do you figure it out as you go along with someone? What kind of?
Well, I have better tools now and a better understanding now as a result of the training. I think it's really helped me mature in my practice and in my ability. One of the things I feel like has been a real benefit of taking my own career down this path is that along the lines of maturing, I'll say, is in trying to replace or getting better at replacing judgment with curiosity and helping people explore their own motives and their own desires and their own and you're right, it's not therapy. There's an awareness, though, creating awareness that oftentimes people know is there. They just haven't given voice to it. They haven't had the words to articulate it. So helping people have those conversations or normalizing those, what might otherwise feel like an awkward conversation, I think is one of the more powerful aspects of pushing through things. Because I think when we have a better awareness of ourselves, and of course we never get fully engaged with our blind spots, or they wouldn't be blind spots, but if we can start to create some awareness of that, I think it can provide, your hope is that it provides a safe place to try on things and to bounce things off the wall and to check in before overly committing to some of the pitfalls that are waiting out there.
How do you take what you learn about a client in these more curious conversations, helping them think out loud, helping them voice what's there, helping them reach out and think outside their own box? How do you take that you learn about someone and use it to inform you with investments and financial planning and so on?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question, because I feel like the primary role that I serve is to be a bridge. So it's a bridge between the macro events of the economy, of the market, of tax laws, regulation changes, and the client, their own personal vision of what makes life significant for them. And so if we don't tie into that significance factor, if it's just more, or checking off the risk management boxes, not that those aren't important to do, but there's not really a tie-in to each person's value system and what is key for them, in how does this money serve them in living their desired life. And when you're going through transitions, clients don't always know what that is yet, right? So it's hard, but that's just a crucial part of any kind of effective planning. I think it is There's like planning 101, right? Where you can save enough in your 401k and, don't spend more than you make and have the insurances you need. There's all that kind of stuff. But to really take it up to a level that's meaningful in someone's life, it has to tie into their value system. So lots of times, sometimes it's questionnaires, sometimes it's open-ended questions. Sometimes it's sharing something with a client ahead of time, letting them chew on it for a while and come back and think about it. You mentioned, I circled it or wrote it down. You mentioned something about curiosity earlier. And one of the books that I read over the course of the last year, did a little study group on, was Asking a More Beautiful Question. I just love the title of that. That sense of curiosity is really key, I think, for advisors. Certainly you have to have the technical knowledge and expertise that can't be overstated, but how you apply your curiosity about a person and what their vision of their life is. It's really a rewarding career.
I think there's a big difference between asking those kinds of questions to check the box or to show that you care, but you really don't have time to care because you're just too busy and that sort of thing. I think people feel that, and that when it's disingenuous, it can feel like an invasion of privacy.
Right. Like you're just peppering someone with questions.
Yeah. And there's a whole different thing when you're willing to sit and be present like you do. And I've watched you in other conversations that we've had in different groups. You're a very good listener. So you pick up on words said and the way that they're said. And you have asked, in my experience, very kind but important questions. And that's a big deal. I don't know if we thank your mom for that. I hope our training and your certification has contributed to that.
Absolutely. It has. Yes. I thank you.
If I heard one of your clients talking about you as their financial advisor, that they would mention something about listening and knowing that you are always there. You're the one that has my back, kind of thing. Is that what people say? Do you think your clients say to someone?
I think that being seen. I think sometimes when a transition client is in the overwhelm, wrapped in the fog, and having somebody help to normalize that or really understand that, not in the way that a friend might say, oh yeah, I forget stuff all the time too. This is so different. What people go through in transition is so heavier and deeper and wider, and they often do feel like I'm losing my mind. And to help people understand that this is normal. It's no way out but through, unfortunately. But you'll get there, and we just have to, baby steps when you're ready. And that being seen, I think, is one of the things that I get the most gratitude back for, that people will write notes or tell me in phone calls or to say to a friend, I'm so glad you referred me. That somebody gets me.
Yeah, that's a really big deal, Laura. Thank you for the beautiful work that you do, one client at a time. And we very much enjoy your contributions to the Certified Financial Transitionist community. It's small but mighty. You are making a difference in your clients, but in your clients' lives, not just in their portfolios.
It's a wonderful group to be a part of. I've learned so much through this community. It's really really a treasure.
Thank you. We value you a lot. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you.